A powerful storm system is set to impact the United States over the next few days, and this will bring some big problems, including the return of significant severe weather, which includes damaging winds, large to very large hail, and a few tornadoes. Additionally, a major flooding threat will return to areas like the Central Plains and the Mississippi River Valley, where more rainfall is not needed after what we saw at the beginning of April. So in today's forecast, we are going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next few days, and we'll begin with what's happening across the country today. And we actually have a big complex of thunderstorms that has been ongoing all the way through the overnight hours last night and into this morning across Missouri and Kansas. There's actually been some significant hail and wind just south of Kansas City, and this will continue to fall apart as it moves into southern Missouri throughout the morning hours. But otherwise, things are quiet for the time being. But by this afternoon, we are expecting another area of showers and thunderstorms to develop that'll also produce significant severe weather, with very large hail and an isolated tornado or two being possible, which we'll talk more about here in just a moment. And along the Gulf Coast, things are very quiet right now. Lots of sunshine, but that's not going to last very long, as we do have a big storm on the horizon. Now let's talk more about the severe weather potential for the next few days, and we'll begin with today, which is tossing trampolines on tall trees Thursday. We do have an enhanced risk now of severe weather in place in eastern Nebraska and southwestern Iowa, really right around Omaha, Nebraska, where there could be some very large hail, damaging winds, and even a tornado or two as we get closer to the late afternoon and early evening. Large slight risk for almost all of Iowa, Nebraska, back into southern Minnesota, and then a marginal threat for Wisconsin, western Illinois, northern and central Missouri, and back into Nebraska. So once again, today's main concern will be large to very large hail. That is why we have an enhanced risk of severe weather in place, where we could see some hailstones as large as the size of apples. So make sure you're protecting your vehicle, especially around Omaha. I think really Omaha is going to have the worst of it today when it comes to severe weather. However, there's also a chance for a tornado or two, and our main region to watch for would be southwest Iowa and just in eastern Nebraska, right around Omaha. There's also a low-end tornado risk all the way back up into southern Minnesota, just outside there of the Twin Cities. So stay weather aware, have multiple ways to receive warnings, and I do think we will be live this evening covering this threat. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon so you're notified if and when we do go live. The only reason why we would not go live is if storms do not fire up there in eastern Nebraska. It's about an 80% chance right now that storms will fire. Now, by Friday, we have a much larger risk of severe weather. We have a huge slight risk that goes from Michigan back into Texas, where scattered severe storms are likely, with damaging winds, large hail, and a few tornadoes all being in play. So make sure that you're staying weather aware. That goes from St. Louis and Detroit all the way back towards Dallas and Fort Worth. One of the main concerns for tomorrow will be large to very large hail. That's mainly in southwestern Oklahoma and far north parts of North Texas. I could see this hatched area for hail expanding further to the north and east, which means that we could see some very large hail even back up towards Joplin, Missouri, just south of Kansas City. So definitely make sure that you're aware of that situation. Now, in terms of our tornado risk, it is just a large 2% tornado risk for right now. If things do trend in the wrong direction, which is possible, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a 5% tornado risk back up in Michigan, and maybe even a small one back over in Oklahoma or Texas. So just keep that in mind. But generally speaking right now, at least for now, everything is pretty equal in terms of the tornado risk. It's all on the low side of things, but it isn't zero. And with how many square miles this covers, I do think we'll at least see a few tornadoes on Friday. And the severe weather madness does not end there. As we go into Saturday, there is another large risk of severe storms. The Storm Prediction Center has a slight risk stretching from Missouri all the way back towards the Mexico and Texas border. Also, a very thin and narrow corridor for a isolated severe storm or two does go from Texas all the way back up into southwestern Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh. I think Saturday will be mainly hail and wind in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Missouri, maybe even an isolated tornado or two. I don't really anticipate much the further north and east you go. I think the main corridor for severe storms will be right in this area. But anyways, stay weather aware. Again, Saturday will be another day where scattered severe storms are in the forecast. Now, on Sunday, this could be a big day. It depends on the evolution of our trough, but Sunday does have the potential to be a severe weather outbreak. It's too early to tell if it will be, but the area that I'd be keeping a very close eye on for Sunday is really this entire region here, from central and southern Illinois and even Indiana back into Arkansas and northeast Texas. The main concerns for now are large hail, damaging winds, and a few tornadoes, but a strong tornado risk could be in play if this trough is able to organize enough, if it's fast moving enough, and if we also have a lot of moisture, instability, and as well as enough wind shear. A lot of ingredients are likely going to be in play on Sunday, and we should have an organized trough for this but there are still some question marks in terms of our setup. Definitely a day, though, that we need to watch for very closely. Now let's go day by day with the severe weather potential, and we'll begin with today. So later this afternoon, we have a very short window for a potential tornado risk. Right now, it's a very small area that we're going to be talking about, where a supercell or two near the dry line and just to the south and east of the cold front will be able to produce the potential for very large hail. And if the storm stays surface-based, we also could see a tornado in and around the Omaha area. This is mainly going to be between about 5 and 10 o'clock, but I think our greatest chance for this would be from 7 to about 10. So make sure that you're staying weather aware for a tornado threat during that time. We could still see large hail and damaging winds outside of that. This is right around 8 o'clock, and notice how we get tornado parameter values upwards of 3 to 4 here in western Iowa. So the environment is definitely favorable for tornadoes. It's just going to be really a matter of if we get a surface-based storm in that exact area, because it's a very narrow corridor where this could actually happen. And then eventually by around 9 to 10 o'clock, the tornado threat is really dwindling. We could also see an isolated tornado up into Minnesota, but a strong tornado would not really be in play in that environment. Just an isolated brief tornado is possible in southern Minnesota, or even perhaps into northern Iowa. So for our timing today, there will be some storms out there during the mid-afternoon. This is around 3 to 4 o'clock. A few storms right around the Twin Cities. Large hail will be possible. These are going to be elevated storms, so not really much of a tornado risk. By around 5 to 6 o'clock, there will be a potential for a storm or two in here that does try to become a bit more surface-based with a very low tornado risk, but mostly just hail and wind. And then right around that same time at 6, in eastern and northeastern Nebraska, storms will start to fire off. These should begin as large hail and wind producers, but the tornado threat will probably increase right around 7 to 8 o'clock or so. And then by 9 to 10 o'clock, we'll have one, maybe two discrete supercells ongoing in western Iowa. And as long as we have one that's organized, which we're not 100% sure if that's going to happen, but if one is organized, we are almost undoubtedly going to continue to see a very large hail, damaging wind risk, and a tornado risk continue, even by 10 to 11 o'clock as this approaches Des Moines. And then eventually after midnight, these storms are mainly going to become elevated again, with very large hail being the main concern across central and eastern Iowa. This is by midnight, 1 in the morning. Storms start to fall apart as they move into the Midwest, and then some scattered showers and thunderstorms in Michigan as we go into tomorrow morning. Now, eventually, as we go into Friday, our tornado risk will really start to increase around the mid to late afternoon hours. Notice how our significant tornado parameter values are increasing across essentially the entire Great Lakes region, all the way back into Missouri and Illinois. I do think a few tornadoes are in play on Friday. The big question right now is if the cap will be overcome, which means we will have a temperature inversion in the atmosphere that's going to prevent storms from bubbling up. If that's in place, I don't really know if we're going to see storms here in the Great Lakes region during the afternoon. And with the round of storms that we're going to see in the morning, that could stabilize the atmosphere even further. So there is definitely a question whether we'll actually have severe storms in this area. But if they do fire off, which I think we'll see storms at some point, but I think overall the severity of them is really going to be dependent on that temperature inversion and also the stable air. But the significant tornado parameter values are definitely high enough here for maybe an isolated tornado or two. Wouldn't even rule out an isolated strong tornado, but it's going to be a very conditional and also low-end risk, in my opinion, for Michigan. Further down to the south and west, we'll continue to watch for a couple of isolated tornadoes with any storms that do fire up. This will continue throughout the late afternoon and evening hours, and it should really start to taper down as we go into the overnight hours. By the way, we will go further down to the south here in just a second for those in the southern and central plains for Friday. Now, in terms of our timing for tomorrow, we'll be talking about some scattered showers and thunderstorms throughout the morning. By the afternoon, there will be a chance for a storm or two to try to fire off. But again, Michigan's a big question mark. We're not entirely sure if we'll see storms. By the time we get closer to 10 to 11 o'clock, anything that happens would be elevated, but this would be the time frame to watch for, really right around 3 to about 8 o'clock or so for a couple of storms that could be severe. Further down to the south and west, there will be some storms firing off near the boundary, in addition to some more storms in Missouri. Most of these are going to be elevated as we go into the late evening, but any storms that fire off before this elevated convection could again be tornadic and also could produce damaging winds and hail. It's a very conditional risk, which is why you don't really see much here during the afternoon hours, but stay weather aware. And again, we'll have another video update tomorrow if anything major does change here in terms of the Ohio Valley and the Midwest, which is again a big question mark right now for tomorrow. Further down to the south in the southern plains and the central plains, this is an area that I'm more certain that we will see storms during the afternoon and evening hours tomorrow. This is right around about 8, 9 o'clock. Storms are going to fire off across Oklahoma and Missouri, where damaging winds and large hail are going to be the main concerns. As long as storms stay further off to the north, this is going to be more of a hail risk rather than a tornado risk, as these storms should stay a bit more elevated. But anything that can stay more into central or southern Oklahoma and even in southern Missouri could end up producing an isolated tornado threat. As we go into the late evening and overnight hours, these storms will continue. We'll even have some storms that are training west to east, which will also produce the potential for some flooding across Oklahoma, Kansas, and as well as southwestern Missouri, and this will continue as we go into early Saturday morning, even back over towards St. Louis. And then as we go into this weekend, the threat of severe weather will start to shift into the southern and central plains and back through the Mississippi River Valley and even into the lower Midwest and Ohio Valley on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And notice how our trough by Sunday really starts to organize and intensify in the central plains. And this is honestly a concern. If we're able to get strong southwesterly flow, we're going to have a more organized risk for severe storms on Sunday across northeast Texas back into Illinois. It's still a question again of some of the ingredients that we'll have in place on Sunday, but right now the trough geometry here is definitely more favorable for a potential severe weather outbreak on Sunday. Again, it's not locked in, but it is definitely looking like it's trending in that direction. And then by Monday into Tuesday, that storm system moves to the north and east. So in terms of our future radar, this is what it looks like on Saturday. Some scattered showers and thunderstorms anywhere from Pennsylvania back into North Texas. Large hail damaging winds the main concern, mainly in the southern plains, and we'll probably have multiple rounds of severe storms as well. By Sunday morning, that trough begins to organize a lot faster, and we should start to see some storms kick off during the early afternoon hours in Missouri, Arkansas, and even back into northeast Texas, where there could be some rotating supercells in this segment of storm activity. Eventually, as we go closer to the evening hours, this is right around about 9 o'clock or so, these storms will continue to push to the east, scattered to even isolated storms from Texas back into Arkansas, and a bit more numerous across Illinois and southern Wisconsin, where wind and hail will continue to be a risk. And then eventually, as we go into early morning hours on Monday, these storms will start to fizzle out more. They'll be pretty isolated, and we could see another round of storms occur across Pennsylvania, New York, West Virginia, and Tennessee, but generally speaking, any severe weather would be pretty isolated. Some of the good news that I'm at least seeing right now is that at least going into Tuesday and Wednesday, it does not look like we're going to have anything super organized as of right now. I think there could be at least some scattered severe storms on Tuesday in the central and southern plains, but again, model discrepancies are still very large right now beyond Monday. But I do think at least as we go into the middle of next week, things will become a lot more scattered, and the severe weather outbreak potential is at least low for right now on both Tuesday and Wednesday, but we'll have to definitely wait and see what happens. And please make sure that you're aware that there's going to be a lot of rain over the next few days. We are forecasting at least 2 to 4 inches of widespread rainfall from Dallas-Fort Worth back through Indianapolis, and areas like Missouri and Arkansas do not need more rainfall, and more is going to be coming over the next 5 days or so. So definitely be ready for this. Turn around, don't drown, and if you're in a low-lying area, be prepared for the potential for flash flooding. As always, thank you all so much for watching today's forecast. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We should be live later today, if not tonight. If we're not live for some reason, tomorrow and Saturday do look at least likely that we'll be live, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you're notified with the latest updates.